recording. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining us. My name is Pian Pian, founder and CEO of Amotions. Amotions is an AI upskilling and coaching company. We have an AI coach that can provide real-time suggestions and feedback to help new hires get up to speed faster, help new managers be more effective faster, kind of playing the role of an AI career coach, leadership coach. The AI can be customized with the company's content and knowledge base as well. Today, we're very excited to have Chris joining us today. Chris is an investor, author, and also a mentor for a lot of startups, and also bigger companies. He has worked with Reid Hoffman on multiple books. One is the Blitzscaling that talk about how to create. Yes, you wanted to.
No, I just have it as a useful visual aid.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, to create successful companies. And then another book is The Lions, Managing Talent in the Networked Age. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate that.
My pleasure, Pian Pian.
Yeah. I was asking the audience, like, what, thank you so much for everyone for joining us. I was asking everyone in the audience, like, what would you like to learn from the talk today? Please feel free to share in the chat if you would like. And we can have some kind of more interactive towards the end of the event as well, because this kind of supposed to be more fireside chat style. So please feel free to jump in the middle with your questions as well. Chris, let's just kind of get oriented. What makes you interested in the intersection of AI and learning development? I know you're a frequent speaker at events like the ATT annual and other kind of L&D events as well.
Yeah, so I think it's part of a broader trend that I think is super interesting, which is what is the effect of artificial intelligence on human intelligence? I think that we sort of described, my co-author Reid Hoffman has described AI as the ultimate cognitive amplifier. And obviously, many people already use the tools out there. How many people here use ChatGPT for something? Yeah, exactly. It's very, very handy. But we also know, since we're using these tools, that we're still in the very beginning process of this. Right? ChatGPT is the first product. It is certainly not the only product. There are so many other ways this is going to go and evolve. And the part that has got me so excited is the fact that it's been so difficult over time to build what we in this industry like to call human capital. And we build it in several different ways. We have an educational system where hopefully people are learning and developing skills. Then those folks graduate and come into the workplace, and L&D takes over and helps upskill them and reskill them as necessary. And then in addition, they may also have continuing education or other things they do outside of that. And those are all ways to boost human capital. But what's exciting about AI is that across the board, whether it's at the primary education phase or in L&D or even in self-directed continuing education, AI has the promise to offer potentially the best form of education, which is one-on-one tuition. And that's the thing. Like, we all know, for those of you who are L&D professionals, which I assume is a lot of you all know that if you were to work one-on-one with one of your employees, you could work miracles. The difficulty is finding the time when you're both available, and then the fact that you're not scalable to working with all the employees. Each of your individual trainers or professionals can do amazing things, but historically, they've been put into a room with 20 or 30 people, and they deliver as best they can, but that's not the same kind of experience that would really form human capital at the best possible rate. So I think with AI, you have the option with something like Amotions to be able to offer a personalized, interactive, and on-demand experience. And that's the thing, right? If we think about learning, let's just take classic educational learning in the classroom. I have two kids who are in college. And what happens in college? Well, you go to a lecture and you hear things and hopefully you understand them. You go home on your own and you work on them in problem sets and papers. and you bring them back and turn them in, and they're graded. And a couple of days later, or maybe a week later, you finally get them back and you get some feedback. And then if you have a question, maybe you wait, you go to the professor's office hours and you ask your question. Meanwhile, the professor has to answer the same question 5 times because different people have the same question. And yeah, it's the way we've always done it. And it has kind of worked. I mean, it worked for me. I went through this whole process and got a great education, I think. But was that the most efficient way to do it? Wouldn't it be much more efficient for someone not to be watching an hour-long lecture, because that just happens to be what's convenient to schedule to bring everyone together? That's not necessarily the ideal unit of time for learning something. The ideal unit of time for learning something might be 12 minutes. It might be 3 minutes. Who knows? It could be anywhere in that overall range. And then immediately, once you've learned, instead of getting a homework assignment that you wait until Sunday night to start working on because it's due on Monday, you immediately were encouraged to try it yourself. And while you were doing it, your AI-based coach was watching over you and saying, hey, it looks like you're having a little trouble with this, or would you be interested in a little bit more on this, or can I help you with this? And giving you feedback and nudges and assistance the whole time. Now, this is something that ChatGPT isn't particularly good at yet. The way that but the funny thing about the way these chatbots work is they're almost too helpful from an L&D perspective, right? Giving people the answer as opposed to gently guiding them there. But therein lies the opportunity for the L&D professional, right? ChatGPT on its own isn't going to get there. And this is an area where you can begin leveraging these tools, first just to help you do things the regular way, but over time, hopefully to be able to do things in a way where every person, every one of your learners is going to have individualized AI coaching, which they'll be able to use whenever they want, as opposed to when you can gather people in a room, where they'll get a personalized instruction, personalized feedback, personalized practice. And the hope is that, we could dramatically improve human capital formation and human capital development. Could we double it? Quite possibly, right? If we look at the power of individual tuition over traditional classroom instruction, it's a multiple sigma improvement. So we could be seeing tremendous gains overall, but it's not going to be easy, right? There's this great temptation for people to treat AI as if it were magic, because it can seem magical. It's like, wow, we can do this. That's amazing. That doesn't mean it can do everything. And all these people who are saying, oh, yes, we're just going to apply AI to the problem and it just magically solves it. No, it takes a lot of hard work to effectively apply AI to a problem. It takes expertise. It takes learning. It takes people who have experience dealing with the problem set and dealing with the people who are being served. So I think it's an exciting time, but I think there's still a lot of work ahead.
Yeah, exactly. That there's a lot of intricacy of kind of how to make the AI be effective and useful in some of the dealing with some of the challenges. We have some questions in the audience that ask, like, what are some simple things that anyone can do to incorporate AI into learning development? Besides learning development leaders and professionals, we also have some HR leaders and professionals in the audience, and then some from the business side as well. So if you have any thoughts on that. I know you have been interacting with a lot of AI companies, and you have invested in some as well.
Yeah, so just thinking about simple things you could do. Let's just assume it's using the basic off-the-shelf tools. Again, ChatGPT is the most famous one. There's also Gemini, Llama 2, and all these other opportunities that are out there. So the very easiest thing you can do is you can use these to help you build out interactivity, because interactivity is often so hard to do. And it's like, oh gosh, I've got to go ahead and I want to create a quiz or something like that. And I've got to go and write it all myself and redo it, especially in a school setting. You can't reuse it over and over again. And this is a great example of one of the principles behind using AI. So it's very tempting for people to say, okay, let me use AI for the sexiest possible use case. And it's very tempting to do that because it's magic and everyone gets so excited when you say, I did this with AI. But actually, AI is not a human being. Artificial intelligence and human intelligence are different. The AI that we have is not actually intelligent. It's just a really good autocomplete. It's very good at doing things that are conventional, not very good at doing things that are unconventional. And it's not particularly creative as we understand creativity. So what I would say is start off by looking to all the things that you do that are important, but are tedious and boring.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that we have to do as L&D professionals, as human capital professionals that are tedious and boring. Well, start directing AI at those things. Don't direct AI at the things that are exciting and interesting that you actually enjoy doing. Direct them at the things that aren't. And again, I think that the creation of exercises, even the review and maybe grading of things that come in, those are all things that I would love to have AI do instead. And by the way, the AIs are getting powerful enough to be able to do this pretty well. You can actually feed a lot of stuff in. The latest Gemini release from Google, I haven't explored the limitations of it, but I've seen some people who have, allow you to put so much information in that they call it tokens, and the number of tokens lets you determine how much information you can feed in before you then start getting responses. But it allows you to feed in the equivalent of an entire book if necessary. So great, find the tool and you can feed in the existing exercise, give me more like this. You can feed in the response of the student or the learner and say, hey, can you evaluate that based on this rubric? And these are all things that you can then review afterwards. One of my principles with AI is that you don't have to just take the raw output and serve it up. You can take the raw output and look it over, right? Provide the guidance and judgment of a trained human professional on top of the AI so that you can deliver in a much more leveraged way your wisdom to the learners that you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so some of the simple things that I have heard from kind of talking to HR and L&D leaders at different organizations, their employees always coming to talent and HR leaders about different questions on like, I need to onboard my new employee, like how can I onboard effectively? Now, I mean, things like what Amotions AI coach can do is just get all their training documents and onboarding information you have, and then answer some of those questions for the employees instead of always having the humans to answer those questions.
Exactly. Let's take the classic employee handbook. Mm-hmm. That could easily be fed into an AI system and made interactive. And mm-hmm. The AI can handle the questions instead of you handling the questions. A great example, again, tedious, boring, but important. Mm-hmm. Let AI help with that.
Yeah. And then kind of like looking into the future, what do you see as like, what does the future look like now? I mean, we're at the beginning of Gen AI, and you talk about this. Last year was the first year, and then this year is the year for us having kind of more practical application of AI in fields like L&D. Where do you see the future going of AI and how it's going to impact the human capital world?
Yeah, well, I think that things always go through this cycle where people first get excited about a new technology and they use it just because it's new. But over the course of years, people eventually just use it because it's useful. And so I've been telling people, I hope that 2024 is going to be one of the years of utility for AI, especially in this space. I see Mark, for example, has just mentioned that AI will help shift from human correlation to data to AI correlation data. That's a great example of something which, again, tedious and difficult to do, but it's something that AI is great at, holding a lot of data points in memory and looking for those patterns, as opposed to then figuring out, okay, based on those patterns, what are some things that we can do to resolve them or improve them or leverage them or sit on top of them? That's what a human would be great at. Now, I see a couple of folks in the audience who, like me, have a bit of gray hair, which means we've been experienced. How many people here remember when the internet first sort of burst onto the scene in 1995? Yeah, some of you are older than you look. My goodness, you guys look very youthful. I'm very impressed. Well, you can just sort of think to yourself, if you went back in time to like 1994, maybe 1995, you would go through your entire day and you would not use the internet at all in any of your work. Now, here we are, it's nearly 30 years later, but this happened even before then. How often are you using the internet in some way, shape, or form as you do your work? The answer is all the time. In fact, all of our tools are now delivered by the internet, including this particular Fireside chat. We are literally using the internet every single moment of every single day. And that's what it's going to end up being like with AI. But at the same time, while we're using the internet every single moment of every single day, we don't bother to even think about it anymore. Right? The only time we start thinking about it is like when I travel to a foreign country and I'm like, oh crap, my connectivity isn't very good. And I have to think, okay, I have to carefully plan when I have access to Wi-Fi to request the Uber. But other than that, it's like air or electricity, right? Electricity was something that used to not be used very widely, and now we use it every single moment, every day, single day. By the way, Mark has a great note in chat. He was saying that I like the term adaptive AI, where AI can help surface stuff for human review versus taking corrective action, automated actions. Yeah, we'll see both of those. I mean, I think that there will be elements of automation that occur. Many of you probably saw the recent story about Klarna announcing that it had used AI to replace 700 customer service people, which conveniently enough was roughly the number of people they had laid off. Now, it's always good to treat these kind of stories with skepticism. If you've ever been the subject of a story, you probably know that most stories are almost but not quite completely wrong. Right? If you've ever had someone write something about you, it's probably almost but not quite completely wrong. And the amazing thing is we somehow don't realize that's true for every other story as well. So with the Klarna story, some enterprising gentleman on Twitter, I refuse to call it X, some enterprising gentleman on Twitter actually did the logical thing, which was to go to Klarna's website and to start asking questions as a customer. And what he found was that what the AI was doing was it was answering routine queries, providing the basic sort of questions, basic responses back, the links and things like that. And then if it was very complicated, escalated to human. So on the one hand, you could look at that and say, wow, gosh, is AI really that advanced? But on the other hand, it's like, no, actually, that's perfect. In the previous world, human beings would have been forced to respond to those queries, which didn't require human level intelligence. And so what we are really trying to do is to save and conserve the human level intelligence for all the things that actually need it, as opposed to using human level intelligence for things that are relatively, as we like to say, brain dead, but are still necessary and important.
Yeah, that's true. Kind of just understanding the potentials of AI and capability of handling huge amount of data and resources better than human, but also some limitations of AI and the kind of the stage of the AI where we need to continue to work on improving, making it functional and great. And I'm also curious for the audience, what are your biggest challenges that you're looking to address with AI, either at work or personal, could be from the HR and D perspective, but also from business or other perspectives as well. Would be curious to hear your thoughts on that. And then, Chris, your book, Managing Talent in the Networked Age, how would you kind of adopt or change that now, if there's any changes to the framework, if now it's an AI age besides the networked age?
Yeah, so I think that the way we described things in the Alliance, and sorry for any noise in the background, there's construction going on at my home, and so as a result there can occasionally be noises. What we said in the book The Alliance is that the thing, and this ties in with a question that I believe it was Tiffany who asked it. Yes, Tiffany asked this, which is about education and entry-level jobs as well. So the core insight of the Alliance is that employment is a voluntary relationship. And it's more like a relationship between peers than a relationship between a parent and a child, which has historically been the metaphor we had, right? The professionals that we work with are professionals, and they're going to have a long career, and they will probably not be at our organization their entire career. In fact, I would ask, is there anyone in the audience right now who has been working for more than 10 years, who has still been with the same organization they joined after they graduated college or high school? I don't see any hands. There might be some out there and somewhere, but I don't see any hands. That's because that world is gone, right? Things have changed. And so in a world of change, what we need to do is we need to acknowledge that change and then change our behavior accordingly. Instead of proceeding under the fiction that people are going to be at a company forever, we should be saying, listen, we want you to be at this company for the long term if possible. But we understand that the only way that's going to happen is if it is in your best interests to be at this company in the long term. And what we need to do is we need to organize our work by what we call tours of duty, which is to say, here is a specific thing that you're trying to accomplish at this company. Here's what it will do for the company and me, your manager, but here's what it will also do for your career. Because the promise that the company makes is not, you will always have a job. That is no longer a promise that anyone can make. The promise is more along the lines of, we will improve your employability. We will improve your market value. And as long as we remain the best place for you to do that, or at least close to the best, so you don't, because again, switching jobs always involves some risk, we'll probably be able to keep you. Now, how does this then tie into AI changing entry-level jobs and early jobs in people's careers? Same thing. So the goal of the early career person is, how do I learn as much as possible? How do I build up my skill set? Part of that is just the brand value of the employer itself, but part of that is what the L&D organization, the other experiences of working at the company help them do. And I will say one of my very provocative things that's actually a part of the book Impromptu, which is a book on AI that I helped my friend Reid Hoffman write for free. It's available for free at impromptubook.com. And one of the wild predictions that I made to sort of be thought-provoking is to say that there are a number of industries, like legal industry, management consulting industry, which have historically relied on an army of young entry-level labor to do a lot of this routine work. And this accomplished two things. The first is that you could pay them much less and charge them out at much higher rates and make money that way. But the second is that doing that work, whether it was putting together the slides or reading through the contracts or what have you, doing that work would help train that next generation that would eventually become the managing directors and partners and the like. Now, the fact is that a lot of that work is tedious and routine. So AI could tackle that. AI can do a better job of reading a bunch of websites and coming up with a summary than a human being can, or at least it could do it a lot faster. So all of that entry-level work, or a lot of that entry-level work, may no longer be as relevant. But you still somehow need people who will eventually become partners, managing directors, and all that sort of thing. So my wild and wacky prediction is that the smart players in those spaces will eventually become more like universities, where they are use their expertise, especially at the high level, to build out the best possible AI training in these disciplines that will get people the skills that will let them become managing directors and partners. And they may even start to charge people tuition to, quote unquote, work at the company and be trained. And they may end up, like universities, and who knows, maybe they'll have endowments, maybe they'll have financial aid, maybe they'll do all these different things. Because what they actually have is a brand and an understanding of the problem area at the highest levels. That means that they are probably best positioned to train people to get there. And so that's a really radical rethink of how these companies work. Was it necessarily going to come true? Well, it's like some of my other famous wild and wacky predictions. They're fun and interesting and thought-provoking. They may not come true. By the way, my other wacky predictions, I always tell people, I'm always very impressed by the work that Uber has done in terms of building out a business. They're worth over $100 billion. It's fantastic. They've done great execution. I'm a big fan of Dara Khosrowshahi over there. But when we have true self-driving cars that actually work, their advantage will go away, because their advantage right now is they have the driver network. You and I don't really care about whether we use Uber, Lyft, Google, whatever, Waymo, free robot car, doesn't matter. And so the instant self-driving is there, they actually won't have the same barrier to entry. And in fact, I predict the ultimate end state for ride hailing is that it will be a free service that's bundled with Amazon Prime. And that you'll use your Amazon Prime membership to summon your self-driving car to take you somewhere. And when it comes in, it'll say, "Welcome back, Mr. Ye. We noticed you were browsing the following products on Amazon recently. Would you like to take another look?" Or, "Hey, we saw that you just finished watching season 2 of Reacher. Well, we happen to have this other show in our catalog that you might be interested in. Would you like to see it?" And ultimately, the cost of self-driving cars will be so low that Amazon will just foot the bill in order to have a captive audience. And you'll be spending even more money with Amazon if that is humanly possible.
Yeah. So now, I mean, you used Uber in your book, Bliss Scaling, as a case study.
Yes.
What do you think are the kind of strategies that companies use to bliss scale in the age with the power of AI adding there? Is there any kind of new addition to the strategies there?
So there are two things. The first is that you should be leveraging AI as much as you can to amplify the human productivity of your workers. Obviously, one of the biggest costs you have is your human workers, and AI like ChatGPT Plus is $20 a month. I can assure you, you're not going to find anyone to work for you for $20 a month. So it's an incredible boost. I think that it is likely that companies will be able to do more with fewer people. We may see companies growing their human personnel more slowly than before. There's positives to that from an investor standpoint. There's negatives to that. I mean, how are we going to deal with that as a society if the companies that are growing the fastest are not necessarily providing as many jobs for the workforce? So that will be a big issue. But the fact is, there's no stopping it, right? The fact that AI exists means that people will adopt it. There is no way to say, well, I'm not going to use it if your competitors are, and it gives them a competitive advantage. And I think that there is a saying that, there may still be lawyers, but there will be no such thing as a lawyer who does not use AI, because they won't be able to price compete with any lawyer who does. Mm-hmm. But then the other portion of it is that I think it'll be very important for people who are building companies, products around using AI to not lose sight of the fact that there are traditional factors of blitzscaling that you still need to think about. The most important of which is the network effect, which is, have you engineered things such that as the number of users increases, the value to each individual user increases? And a lot of this is based around the interactivity of the human users, right? This is the nature of Facebook, right? You want to be on Facebook because there are more people there. You want to be on Uber because there are more drivers, and so on and so forth. So having a human in the loop is still going to be important, especially for building out those network effects and driving virality, where humans talk to each other and tell each other about stuff. I mean, eventually we may have robot virality or AI virality, but we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Now, I mean, at least from us building the AI coach, the more users use our product, the more companies use our product, the more data we get to train the AI and make it more effective. So does that qualify as the network effect for creating, like, from more people using it?
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's a key factor. By the way, we've seen a whole bunch of more questions streaming in, which is awesome. Really glad that people have got a lot of questions. I'll leave it up to you, Pian, whether you want to deal with them now or deal with them later.
Yeah. So it's a question, when does it make sense, from Chris, when does it make sense for a company and HR department to invest in their own LLM? How would apps models like Amotions connect into that to deliver the focused, most effective solutions for managers? Yeah. I can take one crack on that, and then Chris, I would love to hear your thoughts as well. I mean, it takes a lot of time and effort. I mean, we have a whole engineering team to build the AI product. So companies certainly, they can invest in that. It just, sometimes it's more effective. It's like buying SaaS products to buy from someone who has been building it for multiple customers and organizations versus having to try to do everything start everything from scratch on their own. I can kind of maybe, to answer the question more effectively, I can quickly show you as well. So because Amotions tool can be customized with companies' data and content, so so the companies can provide your own training content and your documents, and we can even integrate with company system like HR performance review system and customize it for you. So it's kind of reduce some of the ground of building actually an AI coach. So just an example, I just started a new job as a manager at a tech company, managing a large team. Give me some tips on how to handle that. And then the AI can take some of the questions and then answer like a human coach. Now, if we get any information or data from anyone, any HR L&D leaders in the audience, we can tell it to be like, okay, I just started a new job as a manager at Blue Cross, for example, managing insurance agencies. So that's different. So the AI can ask like, okay, how are you planning to introduce yourself? I can also ask like, give me some tips on how to be effective in my job in the first 90 days. And then it can kind of imitate how a human career coach leadership might. So to be effective in your job as a manager, build trust and rapport, communicate openly, listen actively. Now we can also have the AI to recommend kind of videos from experts and coaches and psychologists. Recommend a video to me on how to be a good manager. Now, again, like if you have your own content and data, we can tap into that and have the AI to recommend the things you have. So it doesn't need to always be in what's in our system. And then there's someone who asked the questions like, how should company think about adopting HR kind of AI strategies and things like that? Chris, do you have any thoughts to share as well?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things I would say. The first is, of course, you should just continue experimenting with a lot of different tools because we're still in the very early stages, and there's a lot of cool stuff that's out there, including, of course, Amotions. I would say that we are going to see specialized tools and products. That's just the nature of it, right? We had when we had the internet or any previous way, we've always had these general purpose tools like a ChatGPT. But clearly, if you went through what Pian just demoed and asked ChatGPT the same questions, you get very different responses, much less useful responses. I think that it will be important for products like Amotions to allow you to customize, to allow you to fine tune. And this was a question that also came up, which is, should HR get its own LLM? Well, it should get products that use LLMs. It may be that if you have the right personnel, the right expertise in-house, it would be useful to get an open source LLM and train it up. But these are things that are often best handled via product. So I'll give you an example. With AI, it's just developed so rapidly. So when ChatGPT first came out, everyone got very excited, and I belong, and actually I'm the co-president of a group of very famous nonfiction authors. And so as authors, of course, we're very interested, like, what can we do with this? And one of our authors, who runs a company that's actually a software company and has developers, went ahead and very early on said, okay, well, I'm going to have my developers get one of these open source large language models, and we're going to train it on the content from my books and speeches, and then we'll play around with it and see. It was like, oh, it's actually pretty good. And that was pretty early on. And then within another month, one of the other authors was like, hey, I found this company where I pay them $75 a month, and I just upload my book and it does something similar. And that is then something that a number of our authors did. And probably at this point, there would be even other services that could be useful for that. So I think that, the buy versus build, it really depends. I think it's worth it to experiment on your own to really get a feel for things. But I think in most cases, just as with previous forms of software, packaged software, software as a service, most of us are going to buy because there's a lot of stuff that is already done for us in special purpose. But the people who are making those tools need to make sure it's relatively easy for us to fine tune and bring in our own stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, this kind of thing we're working on, how do we work with companies to tailor the solution to be best of their own use case. Besides that, there are also questions on how can we leverage AI to measure like effective kind of have effective assessment of people's capabilities and talents, capabilities and skills. Do you have any thoughts on that, Chris?
Well, this is an area where the L&D expertise comes into play, because you can ask AI, hey, how do you measure a skill? And if you know what skill you want to measure, it'll offer some suggestions. But will those suggestions be correct? Will they actually work? This is where having real instructional designers and people with experience comes in. And you can say, okay, well, I can leverage AI to help me execute on a plan that I, with my human expertise, can say is the proper way to do this. Just asking ChatGPT, I mean, you could do this right now. You could ask ChatGPT to put together a plan for upskilling people in a certain area, and there's at least a 50% chance that it would be a terrible plan. But if you have somebody who is an expert on the topic, asking questions, fine-tuning the prompts, there is a very high probability that you'll get a useful set of information, and it will have taken a lot less time than building it from scratch as a human being would. Good Lord, they're making a lot of construction noise. I apologize.
No problem. Thank you. So have kind of closely collaborating with the L&D or HR experts to give feedback to the AI product is important in terms of having it to be effective in kind of doing the job, getting the jobs done. And I mean, what advice do you have for companies, kind of like, where do they start if they're thinking about they want to use AI, but it's kind of, there are a lot of options and there are a lot of kind of thinking a potential possibility. Where do they start in terms of implementing AI in making their companies more effective?
Yeah, so I think that the first place to start is with experimentation. So AI is something where things are changing so quickly that, you know, the usual approach of, well, I'll wait until someone comes out with a good book on this or a course on this, is just not going to work. It's changing way too fast. And this is happening out there in the AI industry as well. 1 month ago, people were very excited about a new release called Pika, which was able to animate from prompts, from text prompts. And it was very exciting. It was a team out of Stanford, some very smart people. Investors rushed in, gave them, you know, tens of millions of dollars. And then 2 weeks ago, OpenAI said, haha, we already have this, and said, we're going to be launching it soon. And they demonstrated, and people are like, oh, wow, this is even better than that. Right? This stuff is changing literally by the week, from the hottest startup in the world to roadkill. And so you've got to experiment. You've got to try it and learn for yourself, rather than just relying on things to emerge, because they change so quickly. However, what I would also say is I encourage people in L&D to really view this as a huge opportunity. So within your organization, of course, there will be enthusiasts for AI. Many of them will be in the engineering department, and they'll be playing around with it. But they'll be playing around with it thinking about how it's useful for them. And you have a much better perspective on how AI could potentially be useful for the entire organization. Again, primarily focused on the L&D lens, but if you develop your expertise and become the in-house expert on how AI can be leveraged for business purposes, I think that can only be helpful to L&D's position within the company. And so that involves trying out new tools. That also involves experimenting with the existing broad and general tools, and developing a real understanding. This has got to be a first-person understanding, something that you can speak to from direct personal experience. Yeah,
that's a very good point of kind of trying out and seeing where it fits and how it kind of works in the organization. And as things evolve, like, where do you see kind of like the most revolutionary aspect of AI? What is the biggest most powerful thing AI could do in kind of improving the human potentials as a whole?
So the first thing I'll say is that whatever I say, it'll be wrong, because you know, we get this stuff wrong. Human beings are very bad at predicting things, especially the future.
Yeah.
And, I often use the example of, if you went back in time to 1995, you asked people what are going to be the most important business models on the internet, there'd be some obvious answers. Be like, well, newspapers and magazines, right? They're huge business and one of the best in the world. And you're about to remove all the costs of printing and all the dead trees. Wow. I'll bet in 2024, the most valuable companies in the world will be newspapers and magazines. Well, not so much, right? Things change in ways that we find unexpected. So we should all have humility around this and recognize that, we can make these predictions, but we got to see how things shake out. So that's the first thing I would say. But I'm not going to just say, well, I have no answer. We give you an answer. I just wanted to make sure that I prefaced it in a way that made that answer recognizable as, hey, this is just me saying something, as opposed to take it to the bank and bet money on it. So a while back, I was interviewing on stage the famed venture capitalist Vinod Khosla. He's a co-founder of Sun Microsystems. He was at Kleiner Perkins. He founded his own firm, Khosla Ventures. He's all over AI, one of the big investors in OpenAI. Just obviously a very brilliant guy. And I asked him about the future of AI on stage. And he said something that I thought made a lot of sense. And he said, and I thought something like this before, but now that he was saying it directly, it was even better. And he said, look, I am a billionaire. And because I'm a billionaire, I have a personal trainer, I have a personal coach, I have a personal tutor, I have a personal doctor, I have a personal everything. And that really improves my life. And right now, only billionaires have that, because to pay for all those people requires you to be enormously wealthy. But in the next few years, almost all of those things will be available via AI. We can all have a personal coach like Amotions provides. We can all have a personal tutor to help us learn a new subject. We can all have a personal doctor to watch over our health, to take the data that's coming out of our wearables and say, hey, you have not been sleeping enough recently. I really need you to take a nap today. And we'll all be living like billionaires. Now, what's the meta principle of that? The meta principle of it is, right now, what do people do when they have money? They use it to find more opportunities, but even more importantly, to remove all the friction from their lives. And so look around you in your organization. Look at where the friction is, where the things that just bug you or bug the people that you work with are, and see how AI might be used to grease the friction over, and smooth it out, make it so that our lives are better. And because I think that, I want to end on the note of, I think that AI is enormously powerful. I know there was a question back there. Mark mentioned, how do we control AI? It's challenging, especially because there's open source AI that's available to bad actors. So make no mistake, it's a danger. Just like having the internet in the hands of bad people is a danger, or having supercomputers in the hands of people is a danger. There is danger there. But I think that where AI can lead us is ultimately being able to improve our productivity and ultimately our per capita GDP, maybe doubling or even tripling in a relatively short period of time instead of over the course of a century. And if we really generate that much more wealth, we'll all be better off. We have to deal with the issue of redistributing that wealth, because as I often point out to people, capitalism is a great engine for creating wealth, but it is explicitly not designed to distribute it. The inequality is a feature, not a bug of capitalism. It's part of the design. And so you have to actually have government policy and other things like that to make sure that the benefits of AI are actually distributed broadly. But a world where GDP is double or triple where it is today in the United States and 10 times where it is in other countries where that are less developed is a world we should all want to be a part of. And a world where we've then removed the friction and human beings are able to focus on the things that they're really good at and that they're really excited about, whether they're in L&D or the people we're serving. That's a fantastic world that I want to be a part of.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I mean, kind of that's how do we leverage AI for good and kind of helping people be more productive and kind of to the potential. So AI emotions kind of, step one is to be the AI coach in everyone's pocket and helping people with that. Audience, do you have any questions, comments? Feel free to unmute and kind of talk as well if you want, or feel free to put in the chat.
I just want to mention what Tiffany said, which is very true, that you go back in time a century or two, and the richest person alive then did not have the kind of comforts that a relatively poor person today has. It's amazing, right? It's like the richest person alive would still be like, okay, we better have 8 kids because we know 4 of them are going to die in childhood. Didn't matter if you're the richest person in the world. And so this is the kind of stuff that AI can do. Now, again, won't happen without hard work. It won't happen without people actually raising their voices and saying, we demand that this be safe. We demand that people actually think about this. And in some ways, we're actually really lucky. This is a wild sort of like silver lining thing, but I'm a super optimist. So I'm going to say it anyways. We're actually really lucky in some ways that there's been this wave of techlash against some of the excesses of the social media era. And that's because we went from, I remember 1995, way back when the internet started, it's like technology can only be good, right? We're going to connect the entire world. Of course, everyone's going to get more intelligent and truth will win out. And it turns out not entirely. But that has prepared us better for the kind of change that AI is going to bring. We know that technology is not inherently good or bad. It just is. It's a magnifier, it's an amplifier. And it's incumbent on us to make sure that it's magnifying good as opposed to bad things.
Yeah, exactly. To some extent, it's we all need to learn how to kind of leverage AI better and use it for our own good instead of bad. And if there's anything I can help with anyone, please feel free to. You got my email, pnpn@amotionsinc.com, and feel free to contact me to see how I can help with any of the things as well. Chris, do you have any closing thoughts, or anyone, the audience, do you have any closing comments or questions here?
So Mike, I'll offer one quick closing comment and then I'll turn it over to the audience. The closing comment is, this is a huge opportunity for L&D because you are the experts on learning. And right now, AI is something that everyone wants to learn about. So seize this opportunity. It doesn't come around very often.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, I've been thinking about building an AI coach for like 6-7 years, but it's finally becoming kind of it's possible even with kind of as a startup to build some of these powerful tools. So great. Yeah. Anyone else has things to add? Yeah. And I'm also curious from the audience, like what are the biggest challenges you are looking to solve with AI? Do you have any examples from your own work or from your own kind of even personal life? What are the biggest things you might be looking to solve with AI? Any thoughts on that? Yeah.
Come on, this is an L&D audience. You guys are not shy.
I'll add my kind of early thoughts on something, but I feel like that it offers a potential to upgrade what we think of as like an internal talent marketplace and collaboration, especially with distributed workforce. Bringing people together from diverse perspectives and areas of expertise to solve the organization's more complex problems, right? But it seems easy enough, but no solutions I've seen have really solved for it yet. So I feel like there's some potential there and actually some fun there, really, like, helping people to make more connections and more genuine connections around things that they can really contribute to.
That's a good point. Yeah, thank you, Jen. It's like how can AI create a more effective talent marketplace and connect people with their talents and thoughts? Yeah. Anyone else? Thoughts you want to share?
Maybe I can just add on that. Traditional learning platforms have been very much top down when it comes to learning, but I think AI can unleash the potential of people in one company being able to learn much more from each other, and not just from AI answering questions based on internal data, but also just connecting people. So if you have a question, maybe Chris is the expert here, and then an AI chatbot can connect us on Teams or Slack or something, and you can drive those genuine learning experiences that actually people learn from, instead of these top-down HR learnings that don't always deliver what the purpose is. So
that's a great point. Yeah, thank you, Amin. So it's like AI can also understand who everyone is in the organization, even it's a 10,000 people company, know what their expertise are, and then connect people with the right person for something. That's great. Yeah, thank you. Emma, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing us together, Pian, and thank you, Chris. I think what is really interesting to me about this too is just like how AI is going to intersect with the future of workplace cultures and how people engage with each other at work as well. So I think as a L&D leader, I think it's going to be really important for us to have strong perspectives on that so that we can initiate those conversations and share kind of like our educated speculations on what it's going to look like for people to actually interact with other humans at work, while also utilizing AI tools.
That's great. Yeah. So kind of how people can leverage AI to interact better with other humans as well.
And by the way, I think that one of the great things that generally happens, I can't remember the specific economic principle, but there's a name for it, which basically says that when something really takes off, the complement to it also becomes valuable. The complement to all this AI usage is the face-to-face, in real life human contact. I do a lot of public speaking, and I've just seen so many more events happening, in the sort of years since the pandemic. And I think people have a real hunger for getting together. I don't think that it's necessarily going to be people always going into an office 5 days a week for 40 hours a week. But I think that regular human contact is going to continue to be really critical. And to the extent that all of us can play a role in that, I think that'll also be important.
Yeah. It's kind of combining the personal interactions events with some of the AI interactions. Anyone else has thoughts to add or comments? Yeah.
Hi, this is Chris. I have a quick question. With AI doing so much to make people so much more productive, and the proliferation of AI tools out there can be, quite crazy. Has anybody building curriculum around employee productivity, specifically training people on which AI tools to use and how to use them?
So I would say that there are a whole host of people who are doing this more informally out there. Everyone is busy providing these. If you could I would no doubt guess that there is a specific AI and L&D newsletter that we could all sign up for today. I don't have a specific recommendation here though, because I'm like, it's always changing all the time. Find a newsletter if you like it, try it out. If you like it, keep reading it. If you don't like it, there's another one around the corner.
Great question, Chris. Thank you. Maybe we can start one like that from Emotions perspective, helping people evaluate the AI tools better in the book. And yeah, thank you, everyone. Anyone else have thoughts or comments you want to add? Okay, if not, please, like I said, please feel free to contact me anytime if I can be helpful in any way. And Chris is on LinkedIn and Twitter and other places as well. So you can find me Pian at emotionsinc.com and check out. You can try Emotions for free, or contact us if you want to do more customization for your org. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. And thanks again, Chris, for kind of talking with us. And we look to do more of these kind of interactive section in the future as well. Thanks, everyone.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you.